So this is today's photo and title, and it reads, Japan Airlines trials humanoid robots as ground handlers. And so where's the robot? Is it this guy up here who's got his thumb in the air? Or is it this guy on the ground waving? Well, I think we know, of course. Okay, so there's a little video we can play. So let's play the video and see what happens. This is on the BBC News. Gave it quite a gentle push. It's waving. So, I didn't find that very convincing, to be honest, because the robot's footsteps just seemed a little clumsy and very awkward. It looked as if he stepped on a suitcase, he'd fall over or something. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the same actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I find it is not right time to
Mm.
use like this robot in an airport
Mm.
because they will make some different kind of problem to the people. Then, then
Yeah,
just help.
yeah, there'll be a problem, you're saying. Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
it's possible. The only thing is, it does say it's got the word trials. So a trial means they're just practicing, to see what happens. Sometimes it's to see, or maybe they're no good pushing these big metal, I forgot what it's called, cargo crates on, but they're great for handling the luggage. You know, the bags people have. They're great for that, but they're no good for something else. So maybe that's what a trial will show. So that's really what trials are about. So you go to one airport or just one gate rather than the whole airport, just doing one small section. We've said the planes go to a particular. There's could be dozens of gates the planes can go to, and maybe there's just a trial at one particular gate. That's a possibility anyway. Oh, okay, so let's scroll on then. So this is the reporter Kelly. Remember, I was talking about NG. That is their name. So that's the ideal thing to practice your NG sounds on. So the title the title for the little video we've said, it says, "Watch robot help Tokyo airport crew load cargo, then waves at colleague." Okay, that's what we saw, I think. It's interesting. It's only been up for 6 hours on their website, and there's been almost 800 comments. That's interesting. So that seems to me that seems very popular for 6 hours. Okay, so maybe if you read a couple of paragraphs and then I read a couple of paragraphs, will that be okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Over to you then, if you carry on.
Mm. Japan Airlines will start using humanoid robots in ground handling tasks at Tokyo's Haneda Airport from May. In a 2 year trial, it said is aimed and easing employees' workload. For a start, the Chinese-made robots will be deployed to load and unload cargo containers. GAL and uh, GMO, AI, and robotics. It's It's a parent in the project, said in the demonstration to the media on Monday.
Okay, that's nice. Thank you. Thank you. Perhaps I'll read it back to you as well. But
Yeah,
is there any
okay.
words there in particular you want to ask about before we go over it again?
Yes. But first of all,
Hmm.
you will read, yeah, and then I will ask
Okay,
you.
yeah, let me read it again then, the whole thing, that bit there. Okay. So, Japanese Airlines, JAL, will start using humanoid robots in ground handling tasks at Tokyo's Haneda Airport from May. In a 2-year trial, it said is aimed at easing employees' workload. I'll put an extra S on there by accident. So I can start from here. For a start, the Chinese-made robots will be deployed to load and unload cargo containers. JAL and GMO AI and Robotics, its partner in the project, said in a demonstration to the media on Monday. So this last paragraph, there's no full stops in that apart from at the very end. It's just lots of commas. And when there's lots of commas in something, it's quite difficult to know how to read it. And there's another comma there. So in a way, sometimes when there's a comma, you can almost put things in a bracket. So you almost could put a bracket there. Oh, I know you probably couldn't put a bracket there, but it's something like that. So it wouldn't quite work out right. So does that make sense to a degree, does it? What you've just read through, or what I've read through perhaps now too?
Agree. And yeah, about the pronunciation,
Mm.
yeah, Japan Airlines. Yeah, did I say
Yeah,
it
that's
wrong?
better. That's better. I think the
Mm.
first time you said it, it sounded as if you were saying something like aero lines or
Ah,
something. So yeah, but we just say air. We just say literally what's on the screen. We say air, and then we say lines, airlines.
okay.
So that's the business that owns all the planes that fly around.
Yeah,
As British Airlines, there's probably some American Airlines, etc. But this particular one, it
uh,
is actually simply called Japan Airlines, and the short name is JAL. JAL.
yeah, okay.
Okay. Do you want to say airlines a couple of more times, or Japanese
Yeah,
Airlines maybe? That's the thing.
airlines,
Hmm. Yeah, that's perfect. And again?
airlines.
Yeah, yeah, that's absolutely spot on. That really is. That's it now. That really is there. That's it.
Yeah, and about the last sentences from this blood paragraph, yeah, in 2 years trail, it said is aimed. I just a bit confused. It said is aimed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, what does it mean? It's
Okay.
aimed.
Well, just first of all, though, so when you're saying this word, it sounds like you're saying trail, but I would pronounce this as trial,
Ah,
trial. So when you
trial.
try something, if you try something, this is the same idea, but I'm not quite sure how to describe the word, but it's another variation on that on the word try.
Okay, it is a
Yeah.
trial. Yeah,
Yeah,
trial.
that's pretty good. Trial. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Trial.
Trial. It's
Okay.
it's the same word, slightly different meaning to when you go to court. So someone gets arrested and there's then a trial to find out if they really did the crime that they're accused of. So there's a trial in court to work
Yeah.
out what they did. If they did, I should say, did the crime or something like that. And this is
Mhm.
another, they're sort of similar meanings really. They come from the same place. So trial, okay. And so they're trying this thing out or trial, and it's aimed at something. In other words, it's trying to do a particular job. If I'm aimed at trying to solve a particular problem, that's what I'm trying to do. If I've got, say I've got my car won't start, then you could sort of say, oh, I'm aimed at trying to solve that problem of why my car won't start. Is there no petrol in the car? That sort of thing.
It is like a target, we can say like
Yeah,
this.
yeah, that's an even better way of putting it. Yeah, it's a target, yes, or a problem they're trying to sort out.
Okay,
Um, and
okay.
the problem they're trying to sort out is it seems to be easing. So if you
Easy.
ease something, you make it better, you improve it. If
Yeah,
I've got a bad pain in my leg, you can say, oh, the pain is easing in my leg. The pain is reducing in my leg, or the problem is reducing in my leg, or whatever it is.
yeah,
That's
easing.
it. So it's
Okay.
not gone away, but it's getting better, that sort of thing. So this is easing employees' workload. So presumably they've got too much work to do, or they just can't
Mm.
manage to get all the work done, I guess, perhaps.
Yeah, yeah,
And the
okay.
robot is going to help them. Mm.
Yeah, how about deployed?
Down
Deployed.
here,
Yeah.
um, it's kind of quite similar in a way to aimed in a sense, but it's not exactly the same meaning. So you might deploy a solution in a particular place, or you might use something in a particular place. So you could say it's another word for use, or, or you let's say you've got a group of men and you want to use them in a certain way. You might say, well, I want to use these men here. So you could also say, well, I want to deploy these men here in this particular location, and they'll sort this problem out.
Like a use, yeah,
Yeah,
in
it's
a
pretty
way.
close to use actually. But there is this idea of sort of let's put it into the dictionary. So I've got a dictionary here. Inception is still there from yesterday. So let's hope it works. So they're taking the ed off the end. Yeah, it's so often about troops, or in at wartime you talk about deploying sort of thing. So it says to deploy troops, weapons, or resources. We're thinking of resources, and here it's robots, I guess. Means to make them ready to be used. So yeah, ready to be used is probably the key idea, I think, there. And their little sentence using the word is this one here. So the president said he had no intention of deploying ground troops. So often it is used in war, this term, I suppose. So use, station. Yeah, so you might deploy men in a particular place so that they're ready to be used. So when you deploy men at a particular place, you could say, I'm stationing the men at a particular army camp or in a particular place to do something. So set up or position, I suppose. Yeah, so you might have something and you might have a special tool and you deploy it. So you're getting it ready, you position it so that it is ready to do the job that tool, whatever it is, needs to do. When you say deploy, it's a bit more specialized rather than sort of, a pencil sharpener or something. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's a verb here, isn't it? I don't think is there a noun to it? No, there's a noun, is there? Doesn't seem to be a noun. Okay, it's back to the article. There we go. So the robots will be deployed or used, that's a simple way of putting it, to load and load cargo containers. Yeah. Anything else there?
It's a parent. It's partner.
Yes, partner. That's it. Partner. That's it.
Partner.
Yeah. So yeah. So someone who that someone who's working with them, sort of perhaps even equally. If you're
Yeah,
married to
partner.
somebody, sometimes
Mm,
you might call them your partner,
yeah,
your
yeah,
wife,
yeah,
or your
partner,
husband. Yeah.
partner.
Also, there's business partner as well. So you might have a
Yeah.
business partner. So just up here on the first paragraph again has this idea called it's a sort of a job title really. So ground handling or ground handler. Any idea what that is? Ground handler or ground handling?
Um, I guess it's look like people who carrying luggage from the
Yes.
plane to the inside airport.
Mm. And so
Yeah, or
these people
probably
here look like ground
yeah, yeah,
handlers to
but
me.
they use some trolley, yeah, probably
Mm.
big
Mm.
for the machine, and they
Yeah, yeah,
put it. They fill up with baggage, yeah,
yeah.
this trolley and yeah, and
Yeah, yeah.
probably unload as well.
Mm.
Load and
At
unload.
the other end, that's it. Yes.
Yeah.
So this big box here, I think that's called a cargo container or a luggage container, and all the people's bags and suitcases are inside here. And it's got a weird shape because it's a good shape to sort of fit inside an aircraft in the hold downstairs.
I I when I saw this
Mm.
picture first, I thought that it was about different. It was made for the different stuff, not for the luggage. It's like bulk stuff. I
Yes.
thought like this
I think
things.
you can put pretty much anything in there. But normally these are, I think that far as I'm aware, these are used on passenger aircraft to go
Passenger.
in the hold, and it's just sort of the place where, but there could be almost anything in there in one sense. But you do
Yeah,
get these large sort of DHL and these large companies that do sort of deliveries. They have their own aircraft, but the whole airplane is given over to um, cargo, isn't it? So all the seats are removed and the whole thing is used for cargo. And I don't know what they use. I don't know if they use these cargo containers.
yeah,
We're sort of seeing it from from one end. They're sort of longer in the other direction. I don't know how good they are at fitting into an aircraft because an aircraft is a tube, isn't it, really?
yeah. It's like a tube. Yeah,
But this obviously fits in the hold. That's like different from the cargo airplanes, isn't it? Might be interesting to search on YouTube to see how it works exactly. How sort of DHL and these large cargo handlers, how they sort of transport the large cargoes that they have.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I don't think there's. I think we've done that one, haven't we? I think that's pretty.
yeah. Actually, yeah, it's clear at the
Yeah, I
moment.
think yeah, that's everything really. So let me read the next little bit here. So this is my
Yeah.
read. Okay, I'll read this one here. So Japan's aviation industry is wrestling with a labor crunch brought on by an increase in inbound tourism and a declining working age population, said JAL, which employs some 4,000 ground handling staff. The carrier hopes that these robots can also be used to clean cabins and operate ground support equipment in future. It's interesting. So they use the word hopes. So they don't know for certain, but they're
Yeah,
just hoping this works out.
yeah,
And that's another thing when you're doing a trial. When you're doing a trial, you're trying it out to see if it works. And at the end of the 2 year trial, they'll know if it does work. So, as we sort of said, it may be good at some things, this robot, but it might be useless at something else. It might be very strong, but not very accurate, maybe. Accurate, perhaps. So, maybe some all sorts of things, isn't there? So
Yes.
any words there you want to sort of ask about or
Yeah, this is first paragraph
yeah.
where you read. Yeah, this is aviation. Yeah,
Yeah,
aviation,
aviation. Yes. Yeah.
aviation industry. It is
Hmm.
about airport. Yeah.
Um, when you say aviation, so that would include airplanes, airports, and things
Mhm.
that are associated with it, really. So you
Okay.
probably could say ground handling is sort of part of aviation, really, I suppose, possibly.
Mhm.
Sort of
Yeah.
a general cover sort of a term, covering term, I guess, aviation. When you
Yeah.
say aviation, most people do think of the airplanes themselves, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
So they're talking about this. So that's the name of an industry in a sense. So this is the
Yeah.
airplane
Yeah.
industry, you could say, or Japan's airplane industry. So it could be making them, and it could be using the aircraft too, and it could be to do with tourism, I suppose, to a degree. So airplane businesses, I guess.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. About the next
Yeah,
word. Yeah. Wrestling. Yeah. It's
yeah,
actually. Yes, they put it. They put it. This word in
mm,
a in a good way, I
yeah,
guess,
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's actually about the kind of sport. Yeah,
Yes,
wrestling.
that's right. Yes, yeah.
Mm.
It's sort of a kind of a fight, but
Yeah,
not a sort of a punching fight or a hitting fight, or maybe there is hitting, I suppose, in some wrestling. But it sort of stresses and strains and pulling on things, isn't it? And let's try it the other way round. And the people are still wrestling, but they're wrestling upside down and pulling and things. Yeah.
yeah,
So it's some sort of a problem, quite a big problem normally if you say wrestling with something. But I might say I'm wrestling with my conscience about something. So in my mind, there's some sort of an issue I'm trying to sort out, and you can sort of say, oh, I'm wrestling with this problem in my mind. I'm wrestling with my conscience, or I'm wrestling with all sorts of things, you could say.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And how about the next sort of idea there, sort of labor crunch? How about that one?
Labor crunch. It is labor. It is people who works there.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah, spot on.
crunch. It is like a week. Yes, week.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a problem, a weakness. That's it. Yeah, it's spot on. Yeah, weakness. Yeah,
Uh, it
you
is
got
like
it.
a
Yeah.
okay.
So only in the last few years, I think, they've started using this word in that sort of a way. I say few years, let's say a decade or 15 years or something, I think. And it came, I think originally it came from the economics. People do with the economy. And they
Okay.
sort of they talked about there was an economic crunch or a financial crunch, and it's the same sort of idea. So things are going two things that are fighting against each other, and they're going to hit, and there's going to be something like a crash, you might say, something like that. So it's a little bit like a crash, but two things have come together, and if two cars hit each other, they crunch, you might say, and they're all crunched up. That's kind of sort of the idea in the background, I think, originally anyway. And now it's sort of spread out into other meanings, slightly other areas of use. So when you say crunch, often it means
Yeah.
something is reducing and something else is increasing, and one's going to pass the other, or perhaps not pass it. They're going to hit each other. That's sort of an idea when there's a crunch in this sense. So a labor crunch might be going back to here. Remember it said about easing employees' workload. So to me, this reads as if the people who work at JAL, the Japanese Airlines, their workload, the amount of work that they have to do, it must be increasing and that's why they're trying to increase it, and that's why there's a labor crunch, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think,
because they are, in simple words, they are lack of people, yeah,
yes,
who
yeah.
are ready to do this job,
Mm,
and that's why they involve in their area
yeah.
robots, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, that's it. Yes.
mm,
And it then explains the other side. So
yeah,
their workload. So yeah, so it says, so that the crunch then is brought on by an increase in tourism, and the other half of the crunch is that there's declining. So something's increased and something
yeah.
else is declining, and here it's just the numbers of people, really, I guess, declining numbers of people who can work there.
Uh,
So they're saying declining working age population. I think
Okay,
a lot
it
of a
is
lot of Western countries are sort of suffering the same problems. There's not enough children being born in the West, they say.
okay. First, what
Mm.
made them involve robots in their area? It is that increase of tourism. Yeah, people wants
Yes.
to
Yeah.
travel around,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the second one, they are lack of people. Yeah,
Mm. Yeah. That's it.
decline
Yeah.
working age
Yeah.
pop. But if it's the here mentioned working. It is means for people who are ready to work, but not actually in a general, yeah. In a general, everything with population good, but just less
Mm.
people became who ready to work in this area, probably.
Yeah, that sort of thing, but it's a little bit more specific. It's quite pointed. It's pointing at one particular aspect of that. What it's saying is there's declining working age population. So I think a lot of countries in the West have the same sort of problem. Japan has it a little bit worse than some other countries. So there's a lot of old people, and they're just getting older, and they're retiring from work because they're 70 years old, and they can't do this kind of work, and they want younger people to take it up. But there aren't many children being born, or aren't enough children being born who can take on the work. So it's a declining working age population. So maybe 10 years ago, there might have been, I pick a number out at random, say 30 million people who could perhaps work in this area. But now it might only be 25 million because a lot of people have got older and retired. And with not enough children being born 20 years ago, so they would have gone through school, etc. So there's a lot of time lag, isn't there, in these sort
Yeah,
of issues?
yeah, it's actually true. Um, how we can replace the word inbound?
Inbound. I don't know
Inbound.
there's one word, but coming in, maybe coming in. So coming
Oh,
into
coming in.
Japan, coming into
Okay,
Japan,
coming
or visit
inbound.
maybe
Yeah, inbound.
increase in visitors to Japan, perhaps inbound. Because when you talk about tourism, you don't know, oh, is it people leaving Japan to visit America because they love looking around the Rockies or something? Or is it people coming to Japan because they love looking around Mount Fuji or something? You don't quite know which direction it is. Is it coming in or is it leaving? So they've put that word there, inbound.
Okay.
Coming to visit Japan is what they're trying to say there, effectively.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Right, okay. So I think did I read? I think I read this last one, didn't I? I think so. Does that last bit there make sense? I think I read that
Um,
bit. Yeah, because they want to clean cabins too.
yeah, clean cabin. Yeah, yeah. But they hope that
Yeah.
it happened. Yeah, it happened.
Hmm.
Yeah, but actually, in my mind. It's yeah,
Yeah,
it does not happen soon because
yeah.
they are very chaotic,
Chaotic.
chaotic. Yeah,
Yeah.
they
If we
are
go back
very
to that photo, yeah. When I think of
yeah,
him,
yeah.
it was staggering a little bit, wasn't he? It was almost as if he was drunk, this robot. So he wasn't quite sure of his footing. Yeah. But he did it,
Yeah,
and he didn't do something, he didn't do anything very complicated. He just pushed on the back of that
yeah, true.
container. I'd have thought they had him just do something quite complicated, but
Yeah, for example, if some suitcase um,
mm,
get out, yeah, he,
mm,
in my mind, he even does not recognize
mm.
that there is one suitcase
On the
miss,
floor, say, yeah.
yeah, on the floor, and he will
Yeah.
do his job, and he will press it, and that's it. Yeah,
Yeah, that's right. Yes, he'll step on it or kick it out of
yeah, yeah.
the
Step on it.
way.
Yes.
Maybe that's why so much luggage goes missing in airports. Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, there's no. He'd be very good at very specific tasks. Move all of these things here to there. 10 meters away maybe. He'd be fantastic at that. But anything more complicated, anything goes wrong, probably there'll be a lot. I can imagine a lot of this trial will be people looking at him and seeing what mistakes the robot makes. I keep saying him, and I mean the robot. How do I know it's male? It could be female, this robot, couldn't it? Or have no sex at all. A sexless robot.
Yeah.
I think all robots are sexless, really, aren't they? Unless we make them sexed, we give them a gender. Okay, right, so I read. I don't know where I got up to. I think I read that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you want to read the next couple from? I
Okay.
think it's from there to there, maybe. Okay, you go. Over to
Yeah.
you.
Robots are already being used in some airports across Japan,
Mm,
including for security, patrol, and retail. Japan welcomed more than 7 million foreign visitors in in the first 2 months of this year,
mm,
according to statistics from JTB Group, which runs Japan's largest travel agency.
mm. Yes, that was quite well read, I think. There, well done. Very clear. So let me read it back again. I might bring up
Yeah.
something. So robots are already being used in some airports across Japan, including for security patrol and retail. Japan welcomed more than 7 million foreign visitors in the first 2 months of this year, according to statistics from JTB Group, which runs Japan's largest travel agency. Right, okay. So when it
From
says
this
retail, do you know what retail is?
retail, yeah, it is not. Yeah, it's yeah. I mixed up with uh, trail. Yeah,
Ah, yes, okay.
retail.
Yeah, so retail, that's it. What
Tail.
is
I
it?
know tail in, for example, lights. Tail. Yeah, we have tail lights.
Oh, yes, okay. On a car, maybe, or on a
Yeah, on
truck or
a car,
something.
but here retail. I'm actually confused a bit.
So here, it's very specific, very definite meaning here. So this simply means shops and shopping, shopping in shops, shops and shopping, basically. That's retail. So retail is about selling things to customers. This is about selling to customers,
Okay.
retail. But again, it's a
Okay.
very sort of a general term. It's not very specific, but it's just selling to people, basically. But probably if it's an airport, if you ever go to an airport, I'm sure you've been many times, well, not many times, but a number of times, you see lots of shops trying to sell things to tourists. And I think that's probably what it's talking about here, almost certainly.
Yeah, actually, I saw the one machine, and
Mm.
it is like a half of robot, and
Oh, yeah.
this machine is able to make coffee for the
Mm.
people.
Mm.
Mm.
For the customers.
Yeah, for the customer.
Did, did you did you
Yeah.
see that in an airport somewhere? Did you? Was it on television
Yeah,
or?
I saw probably it in an airport.
Wow, I've never seen that. Mm.
Really? Mm.
Mm. But I haven't been in an airport for a little while, so that
Oh,
might be something to do with it.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, interesting. So was it one of the big brands like Costa Coffee or someone else, one of the big
No,
brands or?
it was not some brand. It just
Mm.
like I don't know, unknown brand. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Something was
Mm.
written then. Yeah.
Mm.
Mm.
Interesting. So I think these are the areas where they're already being used. The robots are already being used in Japan. So it's in shops, which is what you just mentioned, and for security jobs. So they walk around and they're involved in security somehow. I'm not quite sure what they're doing in terms of security. Do they have a gun or something? I hope a robot doesn't have a gun.
Oh, yeah.
I never want to see that, to be honest, but I
Yeah.
suppose it will happen at some time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm,
So
I guess.
anything else there you want to talk about or ask about?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, we
Mm.
can say from this last paragraph that Japan's largest travel agency in the world from this, no? Or it is just in
No.
their country?
Y- Yeah, the problem is, I suppose, it's got the largest travel agency all on one line, but the
Ah,
rest of the sentence is up here. So it says, so JBL Group, which runs Japan's
ah,
largest travel agency. So it's
yeah,
only in Japan, I guess, from
yeah,
that.
it's only in Japan, yeah.
Yeah. So the J must be Japan Travel Bureau, I would guess. I'm just guessing that. Japan Travel Bureau Group. It could be anything really, but the J must be Japan, mustn't it? In Japan.
Yeah, definitely Japan, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so shall we scroll on to the next couple of
Yeah, okay.
paragraphs? Okay. Oh, we might as well go to the end now, I suppose. I think I read the last one. So that's the end of the article there. So you want to read that
Yeah,
again?
okay. Did you say that I need to read this one, or you will read it? This?
Uh, okay, I'll read it then if you
Yeah.
want. I can't remember who read what. Okay, I'll read it then. So, while airports appear highly automated and standardized, their back-end operations still rely heavily on human labor and face serious labor shortages. GMO AI and Robotics' president Tamachiro Uchida told reporters using robots for physically demanding tasks will provide significant benefits to employees. Kyodo news agency quoted, this is why you didn't want to read it, wasn't it? It's got these names. So Yoshitiro Suzuka, the president of JAL Ground Service saying, but he noted that some duties, including safety management, can only be handled by humans. Oh, that's good to say that some safety tasks must only be done by humans. And when I was reading it, I gave a little bit more emphasis to the word only, because
Yeah,
obviously that's
only.
it's a crucial word in that sentence. Okay. Yeah. So anything there?
Mm.
And I love that. You got all these difficult names, and that's why you wanted me to read it, wasn't it? Okay. Well spotted. I didn't see that. Well done. Okay. Anything else there?
Mm. About appeal, it is appeal. It is like looks like we can replace it like appear. Yeah. No, it is
Whereabouts is this word? So
yeah. It is
is it in the first paragraph?
airports. Yeah, via
Oh, appear. Yeah.
appear. Yeah,
Yeah.
appear. Because
Seem, maybe. The word seem you could put in there. So
okay.
while airports seem highly automated and standardized, yeah. So, yeah. So when you look quickly around, you see a robot serving coffee as automated, and standardized would be they're all the same shape, all the same design, and it's kind of simple. It's kind of it's suited to do the job particularly well, you might say.
Yeah.
Does that make
Okay.
sense? So all the
Yes.
same. If something standardized is all the same. Everything's the same. Maybe it's all other airports all the same, I guess. I
Yeah, but
suppose yeah. Anything,
I
yeah.
guess there allowed to be some a bit small differences. For example, like in a car, something someone for example smaller, another one a bit bigger, but
Yeah.
there is some standards
Yeah,
to
that's a
be.
good way of thinking about it, yes. There might be different sizes of airports or different sizes of cars, but there are standardized as much as they can. So they all have the same size wheels, maybe, or something
Oh
on the
yeah.
cars, but they're different size cars. There might be different wheels as well, of course, but yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting. I know in Japan they do have this strange, not strange, but they have a one of the standards they have for their cars is that they have I think they're called A cars, B cars, and C cars. And what the A refers to is that if you're an A category car, you're a certain length, or no, your maximum length, maximum width, and a maximum height. And so what they do is the Japanese, when they're designing cars for their home market, they make them so they fit exactly in that size, precisely in that size. And I think they go beyond that. Then they're in another size or standard of car, and they pay a different tax, maybe. Does that make sense, what I've just said? So
Mm.
there's A size cars or A standardized cars, and there's B, and then there's C, etc. And I think it's basically the size of the box that the car would fit in. That's how they standardize them. So if you look at Japanese cars, if I click over here, typical typical Japan. I must misspelled Japan, haven't I? My spelling that's appalling, isn't it? Japanese car. They can be very box-like. It's partly because they're thinking about fitting into a box. This box that I've just talked about. So,
But I
oh,
don't understand.
oh,
You mean
yeah.
box for the car?
Oh, there's the classic one. Can you see that's very cubic looking, that car?
Yeah, cubic.
So,
Yeah.
and the ones below it are very, and they're all very, because because as you were saying about standardized, so this is a standard that they have in Japan. They have standard size for the car. So if it's a particular standard, like that, I think it's called A, it's got certain dimensions. So a dimension would be how high it is, and another dimension would be how long it is, and the other dimension, because there's three dimensions, would be how wide. And so this
Okay.
car here
Okay.
would fit in pretty much exactly the box. I guess the B, I think this is the B size car looking at this. This one down the bottom might be A, but there might be Bs as well, but I just can't see from the size. So,
Okay.
so they make them to fit like they're in a very large square box.
Okay.
because
But
it's I think it's because of tax, I imagine. That's my understanding, but I might be wrong about some of the details. So do, if you know differently, do correct me. Please correct me. Let's just I think that I find these square cars really fascinating. That's the same one again. That's an even bigger one. So there's sporty ones that they don't really care what they look like, but the square ones, I think, there's something just so appealing about them. Oh, they were only in the first few photos. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that was it then. I
quite
forget
interesting.
exactly what it is, but there you go. Oh, this is key car. Japan got it right with these key car. Oh, let's just quickly click on that. No, it's just a photo again, isn't it? So yeah, it's.
Yeah, is it a Honda? Yeah, I see
Oh
it's
yeah, it
Honda.
looks like it looks like that symbol on the front, the Honda, doesn't it? Yeah, it
Yeah,
does.
symbols like Honda. Yeah, I
Wow,
have
it's
never seen like this guy in
yeah.
the UK.
Well, these are made for the home market
Oh,
because in
the
the in the Japanese market they have these standardized rules. So as I said about the A, B, and C, but it's not in the foreign market. It's not in the American market. It's not in the British market as such.
yeah,
And I
okay.
think maybe they don't have to have them exactly that height. They could make them smaller, but they're going up to the limit that they're allowed within that sort of That thing look amazing.
Actually, in my
Mm,
mind, these standards they made for the just for the themselves
yes, for
and
their home market.
what
Yeah.
in which way does it help them if they have this standard?
Um, I've never been to Japan. I do find I must go there at some point, but to be honest, I really don't know. Um, but they do have a certain amount of quite a lot of traffic jams. I think I'm right in saying that. And so,
Yeah,
but maybe
okay.
making the cars a bit smaller. Maybe
Oh,
it's to make them more efficient, so don't waste fuel or electricity.
yeah, yeah.
I'm kind of guessing some of this. So if you know the answer to some of these questions, do tell me.
Actually, no.
But it is, there's something about the shape of that. I think it's just fantastic. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know that
Mm.
in the England
Mm.
we just have
Yeah.
only one brand for the cup, yeah, and
The cab, you mean?
cup, yeah,
Where
like
you
a
sit, you're saying, in a lorry or something? Or
no, just
cab?
no, the like a taxi, yeah, iconic
Yeah.
taxi, yeah, and no one country have like this, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Cup.
So the cab or taxi. That's it. Yes. That's very
Yeah,
good.
cup taxi, yeah.
I don't think as far as I'm aware, they don't have to be made like that. It's just that that's the design they sort of came up with over the years, and it's sort of fallen into that pattern. I don't think it has to be. There are certain rules. I think and the rules change a little bit. So I think when the vehicle is moving, the doors have to lock so that
Okay.
you can't accidentally open the door and the passenger can't fall out when you're moving when the taxi's move. There's lots of little rules like that. And I think maybe they have to have more seating at the back. I'm not quite sure really. There are a lot of rules about it, and
One
actually,
day I
and they're very
wanted,
expensive. Many
yeah, yeah.
60,000, £100,000 or something. Yeah,
One
expensive.
day I wanted to order it, yeah, but
Oh yeah,
the price was in a twice bigger than normal taxi,
yeah, yeah.
like this, and yeah, I have never
Mm, mm.
sat there.
You've never used a taxi.
Yeah,
So
I have never
sometimes
used it.
referred to as a London taxi or a black cab
Yeah,
taxi. Something
black
like that.
car, yeah,
Yeah, black cab. That's it. Or a London taxi. So supposedly the guy who's driving it, he has
yeah.
very, very good knowledge of all the roads in London.
Oh, wait. yeah,
So,
yeah.
and they're meant to be, and there's a certain standard they're meant to achieve, and they're sort of, and I think they have to get a license and all sorts of things. Whereas there are other sort of other taxis, I've forgotten quite what they call them, just a, um, just I've forgotten what they call them now. But the other types of taxis are just normal cars, and it's just a driver who's decided to do this, and he has his own sort of
Oh,
um,
yeah, like a
what's
Uber,
that app? Yeah, an Uber. It's something like an Uber. Yeah, that's right.
an
But there are
Uber, yeah.
others as well besides Uber, of course. And before Uber, I forgot what they call it. Is it
Yeah,
just a
Bolt.
taxi?
We have a Bolt.
Oh, Bolt. That's true. That's a
Bolt.
new one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Bolt and Uber. Yeah.
Actually, the Bolt is cheaper than Uber.
Hmm. But leave it 6 months, and Uber might change their prices. But Uber's got quite a good name, haven't they? Got a very good name, Uber.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I'd definitely give a try to Bolt if I need to use that. Yeah. Hmm. So should we end the class there, the official bit of the class? If I go back
Yeah,
here. So
yeah, yeah. Okay.
did we finish this, did we? Did we finish reading? We finished
Is
reading it, but does it make sense to you?
mm, actually, yeah, let me see. Yeah, yeah, it's okay. Yeah,
Okay.
it's okay. Yeah.
So as a little bit of practice then, so what does it mean when it says back end operations? So what do you think? What do you think
Okay,
their
it's
back end
actually good
operations are?
questions. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I read that paragraph again, you can think
Yeah,
about it, the
yeah,
answer, and I'll
okay.
just read it. So
Uh,
So while airports appear highly automated and standardized, their back-end operations still rely heavily on human labor and face serious labor shortages. GMO, AI, and robotics President Tomohiro Tomohiro and Tomohiro Uchida told reporters. I still can't get that name. So what does that little bit mean there? What is their
yeah,
back end operation? It's a little bit
back and
technical. It's a bit
yeah,
technical.
it's actually, I
Hmm.
guess, it is about the labor
Yeah.
who works there who works there years and
Hmm.
they are reliable than a robot and yeah,
Yeah, okay. But what particularly does that phrase mean? Could you put that in other words? Their back end operation. I think what you said is probably true, but
yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't exactly touch that particular bit I've highlighted. So could you put that a little bit in
Actually,
other words, maybe?
back end operate. It is like a old style, old way to do something, no?
Oh, as in back in the past, sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ah,
Like
I see. But when they say back end here, they mean it's the back end that it's so far in the back you can't see it. That's what they really mean. So it's behind the gates, behind the doors
yeah.
where tourists and travelers don't go. So if you
Uh,
go to an airport, you don't go, you're not meant to go on the flight pan. You're not meant to go where the aircraft wheels roll along the ground. You're not meant to anyway. You can do occasionally. But it's just the
okay.
people who work in the airport meant to walk around the airport or be in the luggage sorting section or the luggage security maybe where they sort of smell the luggage to make sure there's no explosives inside, that sort of thing.
Okay, yeah, yeah. It's
You know,
like,
mm,
yeah, it looks like a place where not for the public, yeah, just for
exactly.
the
You've
staff.
got it. You've got it. You've explained
Mm,
it better than I can. That's it. So any business has a back end, you might say.
okay.
So I just came from a coffee shop that just opened near where I live, and they have a back end. And so that is, so there's all the front end is all where the customers are, and you see people serving the customers, and they're all smiling and they look very nice. But in the back end, they're laughing maybe and doing the washing up, cleaning, sitting down, having their own coffee, having their lunch break, the back end. But it's more like all the hidden operations, like where they're preparing the cakes maybe, or where they're cutting up the sandwiches, or they're opening boxes and taking out cups and they're storing them maybe. That's the back end of any operation. I mean,
yeah,
so any shop like retail, if you've worked in the warehouse of a shop, that is the back end, the back end of the opera of Lidl or whoever it might have been, sort of thing. That's the
yeah,
back
yeah, back and yeah.
end. Yeah, the hidden
But
thing.
for example, in my house,
Hmm.
I will say that my yeah, but my back no, we don't have a back end, yeah, in the house probably. Or probably you have some place where you can end where only can go you and no one else, yeah, like this.
So your private area might be your back
Yeah, yeah,
garden if you
right.
had one, or back entrance. So there might be, so you might have your front door, but you might have a back door as well, or a back entrance. Probably say back door, really. And sort of the back door is a little bit more private, and you might have a cup of tea there in the sun, reading a book or something,
Yeah,
having a cake or having a laugh with your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, true.
That's a bit more private, and the back garden too. If you said my back end, that
Yeah,
actually sounds like your bottom when you say that. For most British people, think, "Oh, what does he mean? Does he
yeah,
mean his bottom?" If you say my back end, and that's sort of what you said at just for one moment, because you use that phrase there. So back end sounds like your bottom or your arse, which is a bit rude, a bit rude.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So being a bit rude, you only say it with friends sort of thing, maybe jokingly, or if you're being a bit rude or something, you might say that. But it's only slightly rude. It just sounds a bit funny. Does sound a bit funny for the sort
yeah,
of typical
yeah,
English
it's a bit
person.
funny.
Yeah. Okay, so let's call it a day there. Let's end the class
Yeah,
there.
let's call it today. Yeah.
Okay. Well, at least where's the button? So ping.